Happy month before New Year's, everyone. Soberoni of G&A Reviews here with a bit of an early servant spotlight, but one I've been dying to do. Yes, today we'll be taking a look at the artist who was so good at drawing porn, she became a servant for it, Hokusai. We'll be examining her stats and skills, as well as going over pointers on how to utilize her effectively, and an overall grade, comparing her to how she stacks up to the other 5-star servants. With that said, on to Hokusai's stats. Hokusai has a max HP of 13,230 and a max attack of 12,100. Compared to her only other 5-star foreigner counterpart, Abigail, Hokusai has the same exact attack stat, but a little less HP. Compared to the other 5-star servants in general, Hokusai has slightly below average HP, but very high attack. Overall, she has a more offensive stat spread, but she does still have enough HP to not be considered a true glass cannon. Taking a look at her skills, her first skill is All Things in Nature, rank A+. It applies Evade to Hokusai for 1 turn, and also increases her NP gauge between 20 and 30% depending on level. Her second skill is Father-Daughter Bond, rank A. It increases her arch card effectiveness for 3 turns between 20 and 30%. It also increases her buff removal resist and debuff resist for 1 turn, both between 50 and 100%, all depending on level. And finally, her last skill is Alias, Octopus from Another Planet, rank B. It applies a special buff to Hokusai that inflicts defense down for 3 turns during each of her arch card attacks for 3 turns. The defense down ranges from 10% to 20% depending on level. For passives, she has Existence Outside the Domain, rank EX, which grants 2 crit stars per turn and increases her debuff resist by 12%. Item Construction, rank B, which increases her debuff success rate by 8%. Territory Creation, rank D, which increases her arch card effectiveness by 4%. And Divinity, rank B, which applies damage plus 175 to all of her attacks. As for her deck and Noble Phantasm, Hokusai has a Arts Buster deck with Quick Arts Buster Buster, and an Arts Noble Phantasm. Her Noble Phantasm is Fugaku Sanju Roke, which deals heavy damage to all enemies with between a 450 and 750% damage modifier, depending on level. It also deals between 150% and 200% bonus damage against enemies with the Man attribute, that damage depending on overcharge. Taking a closer look at her cards, we see that her quick card hits 4 times, her arts hits 6 times, her buster hits 4 times, and her extra attack hits 4 times. She has an NP gain rate of 0.33% and a star rate of 15%. She has good NP gain and star generating, both due to the incredibly high hit counts on all her cards, as well as her synergistic passives. Well, you can't have a tentacle-based class without Hokusai herself making an appearance. And believe me, those tentacles are more than just for show. Much like Abby, Hokusai has fantastic stats all around. She may have a little less HP than Abby, but in return she has infinitely better NP gain and star generating, and she still keeps that monstrous Gil tier attack. But what really separates Hokusai from just about every other servant in FGO is her truly unique skill set and playstyle. Her first skill, All Things in Nature, provides Hokusai both a strong NP charge and an evade, on a surprisingly short cooldown. The skill is flexible and it can be used offensively for a quick Noble Phantasm for wave farming, or defensively for some extra tankiness. And because the cooldown is relatively short compared to most evades, Hokusai isn't punished as much when choosing to use this skill offensively. Father-Daughter Bond is another good skill in Hokusai's kit. It not only buffs her arts damage and NP gain, but also gives her 100% debuff resist. The buff removal really isn't as relevant, unfortunately, but the debuff resist can come in handy for many boss fights where enemies have Noble Phantasms and skills that can inflict stun or other status ailments. While the arts buff itself is great for further buffing her NP gain and giving her some spam potential, as well as the extra damage. But by far Hokusai's most unique skill is her last, Octopus from Another Planet. This skill gives Hokusai's arts cards the additional effect of applying a 20% defense debuff onto an enemy for 3 turns. This includes your Noble Phantasm, and yes, it does stack. This means that arch chains with Hokusai are absolutely devastating, as you can apply a full 60% defense down on an enemy for 3 turns. If Hokusai gets more arch cards before those 3 turns are up, she can continuously stack defense down. making it possible to reach 80% or even 100% defense down on an enemy. So as you can imagine, you should without a doubt level this skill first. The utility and potential damage it gives to your team is just too strong to ignore, followed by father-daughter bond for the NP gain, and then the evade last. Hokusai's unique playstyle extends to her NP as well. It's an AoE Arts Noble Phantasm that deals additional damage to enemies with the Man attribute. But there's a lot more going on with this Noble Phantasm than what you see on the surface. First off, this is a 5-hit Arts Noble Phantasm, so it does actually refund quite a bit of NP charge back to Hokusai after use. But more importantly, this Noble Phantasm is deceptively powerful. Despite having no NP interlude, Hokusai can do some serious damage to enemies with the Man attribute. And lucky for Hokusai, the Man attribute is the most common in the game among servants. Keep in mind that man does not refer to male enemies, it refers to a category of servants that are based off of real historical people. Hokusai's skill set is incredibly versatile and dangerous. On the offensive side of things, Hokusai can be an effective farmer thanks to her NP charge skill, AoE Noble Phantasm, and NP spam potential. But she also makes for a strong boss killer as well because of her big bonus damage against most enemy servants, making her very similar to Tesla and Ishtar. But she can also be a good semi-support servant due to her third skill. Stacking an enemy with 60% plus defense down means that she can drastically increase the overall damage of your team, and defensively, she can even cover herself with a low cooldown evade, which will keep her safe for most battles. And if all that weren't enough, Hokusai can also fit a role as a arts crit servant, as she has very high natural star weight and good star generating all on her own, so she naturally crits very often. Hokusai can do a lot. It's hard to fit it all into one video, but her most important asset that should never be overlooked is her third skill. It increases both her own damage and your team's damage exponentially, and its effect cannot be overstated. But for as good as Hokusai is, no one's perfect unless they're named Merlin. Hokusai's damage does suffer considerably when she can't make good use of her NP's bonus damage. And ironically, there are many berserkers that don't fall into the man category. Additionally, RNG can also screw Hokusai over if she can't get arts changed frequently enough when trying to apply her defense down. It's also worth noting that even though her NP gain is good, it isn't broken, so don't expect her to be capable of the same level of NP spamming as someone like Archer Arturia or Rider Mordred, for example. Naturally, Hokusai is most at home in arts teams. That's where she can truly excel, and she is self-sufficient enough to not really depend on supports to get by, so team comp is very flexible. Ideally, you should place her with an art servant who can boost her NP gain and NP damage. Servants like Tamamo, Nero Bride, and Paracelsus are excellent choices. Tamamo is the go-to art support, and in Hokusai's case, the NP charge and cooldown reduction from Tamamo really help her with stacking that defense down and bursting down bosses. Nero provides similar support with a powerful attack buff and NP charge. And Paracelsus is just one of the best free-to-play art supports around, who also drastically improves Hokusai's NP gain, and he can give her a bit more survivability to boot. As I mentioned, you can also build Hokusai as a crit servant for a bit more fun. This helps her out with NP gain, and it helps out her non-NP related damage. If that's what you want to do, then I suggest a crit support like Caster Gil, Mozart, or Altera Archer. Caster Gil's wide range of buffs is going to improve Hokusai's already good star generating and enable her to hit much harder. Mozart can set up some devastating arts crit chains with his Star Bomb skill, and Altera Archer also has a good range of buffs to offer Hokusai, including NP charge and crit damage. Just be wary of her high star weight. Hokusai's Bondcraft essence is the Dragon of Smoke escaping Mount Fuji. It boosts her NP strength by 30% and grants her a one-time guts, reviving her with 20% max HP. A very interesting Bondcraft essence that can work well in some stall setups if you want to be more defensive. However, Hokusai excels more at offense, so I suggest using CEs that are going to bolster your arts card effectiveness and NP damage, like Dive into Blue, Formal Craft, Collide Sapphire, and Faithful Companion. If you prefer to build a crit team around Hokusai, then look for CEs that buff NP gain, arch card effectiveness, and crit damage, like Another Ending, Summer Little, and Trick or Treatment. In the future, be on the lookout for Royal Icing, which gives a huge buff to your NP damage and arts, or Welcome Bunny for crit teams, since it does buff your crit damage, arch card effectiveness, and it grants crit stars. Overall, Hokusai is one of the best art servants in the game. She has a wide range of skills that allows her to adapt to any situation. She can be a great farmer thanks to her NP charge and spam ability, but she can also be a menace against bosses if her bonus damage triggers. She's also solid defensively due to her low cooldown evade, and most importantly, her absolutely busted third skill can cripple strong enemies and drastically improve your team's damage. She does have a few drawbacks, like an over-dependence on her third skill, some reliance on RNG to get the debuff stacked, and her damage against non-man attribute enemies is subpar. But overall, she's just too good to be held back by minor issues like that, so she gets an A+ from me. I absolutely believe she is one of the strongest and most complete servants in the game, and she elevates any arts team she's in to a whole new level. And those are my thoughts on Hokusai. I should also mention she comes in clutch late game, since so many of these stupid broken bosses in Lost Belt are berserkers. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and consider subscribing if you really enjoyed the video. Join the party over at our Discord, chill with us on Twitch, and follow us on Twitter. And I'll see you all in the next Servant Spotlight. Sobroni out. Later.